It says it's starting. I couldn't even get to the screen for the longest time. I wasn't allowed to go live. Alrighty. It says I'm live. What do you know? Actually live. Okay. Crouton and Moan's House of Math. Also Hundreds Monkey playing around. We're having a good time in the silver markets. Oh, wait. Let's do this because they always throttle that down. And me, my computer. Let's see here. System settings. Let's make sure you can hear it. How about sound? There you go. Yeah, I'll just turn up a little bit. Okay, $200 silver incoming. That's probably the beginning of it, not the end of it. Let's see, we got export bans, empty vaults, and worldwide return of silver as legal tender. I also want you to notice that what I'm about to do, something ridiculous like 50% of graduating seniors in this country can't do, which is read out loud. Half of them. I have no sympathy for those people in the DOE. They should be at the end of ropes, not just losing their jobs. They dumbed down a generation to the point where you stood on stickers. And apparently, Americans can't figure out what's happening because they can't do the math. Well, it's going to crash back down. Uh, no, it's not. It's going to go much, much higher from where we are. And here are just a few of the reasons why. Nations race for bullion as silver transforms from industrial staple to monetary lifeline. Export bans, collapsing inventories, and state legalization ignite a worldwide rush for real metal, not pretend metal, not pieces of paper, actual physical metal that they can hold in their hands. Because many of these people that are standing for delivery, they're not speculators. They're not going to stick it in a vault. They need it for industry. They need it to keep their factories running. This comes from the Silver Academy. This is one of the most beautiful charts you're ever going to see. And you're never going to see another chart like this as long as you live. Okay, I think you can see there's a parabola here and there's a parabola here. And if you do the math and you can make the parabola, it's just a x squared plus x plus some units. That's all it is. And you can see it right there. Just draw the line. That is a parabola. And now we are in the parabolic phase. And as time goes by, these get longer. More move in less time. And you can't do the math. You can't do the math. I can do the math, and the math is crazy. Silver is no longer inching higher. Yeah, I wouldn't call $10 in a day inching higher, but okay. Silver is no longer inching higher. It's detonating in real time, shredding every complacent model Wall Street ever built about this boring metal. It's a lump. It's a lump of stone. It's a hunk of rock. What you want is Bitcoin. What you want is XRP. Actually, you do want XRP. That's maybe the next thing to move because everything's about to change and they're going to flip a switch and there's going to be XRP making things happen, moving money across borders. And they can't do it at $2, just like they can't do silver at $80. There's billions, billions, and billions, hundreds of billions coming into this market. 17 billion moved it $10, not even $8. Uh, the fact that they have put a floor under silver, see, because they are bailing out the banks. They just gave them $17 billion yesterday. Monday or Tuesday, they're going to need 25 billion more. Uh, this is going to get crazy. But the bottom line is they've bailed out all the shorts. So, and there's nobody on the other side of these trades. So there's nothing to do for the price but to go up. A once in a generation supply shock has collided with record industrial demand. And the result is vertical, panic driven repricing of the world's most critical metal. This is not a bubble. This is not speculators. This is a bank run, and they're not running on paper, they're running on silver, and they don't have it. And their Ponzi scheme has come to an end. And see, normally it should be, 9, 10 to 1. No, it's more like 359 to 1. There are 359 people who think they own silver, but actually they own paper. Now, China. China, China, China. China, they hate the Western bankers more than we do. Uh, about 125 years ago, right around the turn of the last century, from 1800 to 1900, what was happening was the people that are descendants of those people are now the LBMA. The Western American bankers in New York City, yeah, they sold opium to the Chinese and would only take silver for it. The Chinese are still pissed about it. If you don't know that story, you should find out about that story, because this is the story. This is what's happening. Right now, HSBC, which was set up 100% to launder that drug money, is the greatest short going. And they're going to destroy HSBC. That's the Hong Kong bank. Okay, so starting January 1st, Beijing will seize direct control over the arteries of global silver trade. Every ounce leaving China will require a state issued export license, granted only to large politically favored enterprises with massive production and deep credit lines, mirroring the chokehold tactics once used on rare earths. If you don't know that story, you could go find out about the rare earth story, and you'll see what's going to happen with the silver story. For hundreds of smaller refiners and mid-tier producers, the export window does not just narrow, it slams shut. China is not a niche supplier on the fringes. It is the central pillar controlling the bulk of global tradable silver, just as a new wave of industrial demand detonates across solar EVs and high-tech manufacturing. When that pillar locks down exports, the rest of the world does not adjust. It scrambles, outbids, and cannibalizes its own dwindling inventories. 60-70% of silver supply worldwide comes from China, and that's about to end. Further, when we talk about EVs, there's a brand new battery out there which is going to change everything. Just that battery, just the ability to store electricity. It charges in 9 to 10 minutes. And what if it was 15? And it gives you 600 to 900 miles, depending on, usage, terrain, whether you're on hills or flatland, etc. But 900 miles of range at the peak and 600 miles minimum. You know how much energy that is? Okay, so now you take one of these batteries and a solar panel, and you can be anywhere and have power. Think about that. Anywhere. Anywhere the sun shines. They were fighting this for the longest time. So now you can have your homestead in the middle of nowhere. Get yourself one of Elon's lovely devices for internet, this battery, and you don't need them anymore, assuming you know how to grow food and harvest animals. A deficit that everything's about to change in the next 5 years. The whole world changes. The grandbabies that my woman has and others have will not know the world that we grew up in, because it's going to be a completely different place. A deficit that we see, because in our world, they basically mechanized labor and muscle. Now they're mechanizing muscle and intelligence and brain power. So a lot of the dumb jobs, you can have AI do it. A lot of the accountants, a lot of the lawyers, a lot of the entry level engineers that were just doing computation, and so you don't need it anymore. You can have AI. And now you can have AI combined with a robot. So now you can have muscle and brain power for a price. Silver is a huge part of making that work. Okay, the export clampdown strikes a market already bleeding from 5 consecutive years of structural deficit. It took huge amounts of labor, blood, sweat, and tears to pull silver out of the ground and stockpile it, and we used it all up. The Chinese, being clever, figured out that, wait a minute, we got these idiots in the United States corporation and all over Europe thinking that it's getting warmer and the sea level's rising, and the way to fix it is with solar power. Okay. So they built solar panels. Right now, I think they have 100 million ounces of silver sitting in warehouses in the form of solar panels. Not even installed, not producing electricity, just sitting in warehouses. Why did you do that for? Where annual demand has consistently outstripped mine supply and recycling supply by tens to hundreds of millions of ounces. Now, speaking of recycling and speaking of the, well, actually, we'll get there in a second, but the idea is they've run out of nitric acid. So a lot of the refineries are shut down until March. And the only silver that they were accepting before that was 3-9, because they needed to turn 3-9 silver into 4 and 5-9 silver for military applications. Us peasants can't even get our hands on 5-9 silver. There's no such thing that you could possibly even buy if you wanted to. You can get 4-9 silver out of Canada. Maples are 4-9. But our stuff is 3-9. And then the coin silver is only 90%, and other silver that, chains, jewelry, etc., sterling, silverware, grandma's candlesticks, that's all 92. And they don't refine that stuff because it's not just heat that they're going to use. They need nitric acid. And nitric acid is not in short supply. That's something we can make as much, crunch all you want. Nitric acid, easy to make, but it just so happens that you have to make it and then you have to get it to the refiners. So there's just a little glitch there. That's going to fix itself. But the long story is that this market is so hot, they ran out of acid. Okay, analysts now concede, because this was all crazy talk and there's no manipulation. Like I said, if they told you that there was no manipulation, whoever the analyst, whoever the person was that told you that, is a blithering idiot, and you should listen to them no more. Nothing else that comes out of their mouth. More than likely, they're vaccinated on top of everything else. Anyway, analysts now concede the 2025 shortfall alone runs into a 9-figure ounce gap. How many is 9 figures? Let's see. The first three are hundreds, the next three are thousands, and the next three after that are millions. Hundreds of millions of ounces short. Let that sink in. That's a pregnant pause. Hundreds of millions of ounces short. Analysts now concede that that shortfall is a 9-figure ounce gap. With no credible plan, there is no plan to close as base metals linked mine output stagnates. Right? The idea is that they're not mining for base metals, and since that's the way they were getting silver, because they were digging for copper and then they had silver as a byproduct. They were digging for whatever it was and silver was a byproduct. But the economies are slowing down, so that kind of mining is slowing down. So even the byproduct and the mines themselves, there aren't any silver mines. Well, there are, but most of them are shuttered. And I guarantee you, in January, there is going to be a scramble, and all these miners are going to be trying to figure out how to open their mines and get the money together and so on. And there's going to be all manner of investment. And 7 years from now, Some silver may be coming out of the ground and turned into metal, but that will take at least 7 years. Not to mention all the environmental problems and regulations and roadblocks that they've put up because the world is warming up and the oceans are rising. So you can't mine silver. And then they turn right around and tell you, oh, what we need is electric vehicles and solar panels. Well, how are you going to build those without the silver that you won't let them mine? See, if they could just be consistent, but they can't. We live in clown world. So the environmentalists have definitely aided in making this bubble happen. And it ain't no bubble. It's not coming right back down because there isn't any silver. This isn't speculators. This isn't paper. This is physical metal overwhelming supply. The demands for that physical metal. Right? Because here's the thing. Here's the other thing that they've done. Brilliant. They just changed margin requirements. Um, Margin requirements on people that are already in the black and in the green and making more money than they know what to do with, and they bought it on margin to compound their profits. Yeah, okay, fine. They got to sell some of their silver to keep their margins, but they're selling at a profit. The ones that are really going to hurt are the ones who are short and who went short on margin and who went short naked. Now they're going to get margin calls and they don't have the silver. So they can't sell the silver because there's no silver to sell. So they're going to have to cover their shorts some other, with money. With actually not money, with currency. And when they try to cover, the price will go up, won't it? It has to. Silver is not like a tech stock that can scale in the cloud. New primary mines require a decade or more, billions in capital, and permitting environments increasingly hostile to large scale extraction. Recycling adds a modest trickle, but certainly not a flood, leaving a structural hole that gets deeper with every new solar factory, data center, and EV assembly line that comes online. China apparently is building electric vehicles that are cooler than anything that comes out of North America or Europe. And they're cheap. So cheap that Trump will make sure that none of those cars get onto American shores or Canada or Europe. Vaults are being drained. The proof of this crisis is no longer theoretical. It's not conspiracy theory. It is visible in the emptied vaults and collapsing inventories from New York to London to Shanghai. And you know who they leave out? They leave out India. India is one of the major causes for what's happening right now. Because India, they didn't want paper, they wanted to take delivery, and they did. And they still ran out of silver in India. There's a warehouse that's 148 years old in India that's always been a supply house for silver that is currently empty. And not one, but two pure silver ETFs, one in India and one in China, stopped taking new clients. You can't buy new shares because they don't have silver. They cannot source the underlying asset because for every share, they're supposed to have a certain amount of silver and they can't get the silver, so they shut the doors. COMEX registered stocks have plunged more than 70% from their 2020 peak. London inventories sit at historic lows, and Chinese exchange warehouses have been drawn down to levels that scream outright shortage. What does an empty warehouse in India scream that they don't even mention here? At current burn rates, key hubs are operating on weeks. Weeks! That would be days. We're talking 28 to 90 days. Not years of readily deliverable metal, a razor thin buffer in a market this systemically important. That is why physical premiums are going berserk, with Asian cash markets already paying breathtaking markups over futures benchmarks as desperate buyers bid for actual metal, not paper promises. Oops, the word paper does not appear there. But they don't want promises. They don't want paper. They want metal. This is what happens when the world discovers that inventory was just a comforting word for metal that no longer exists in size. Ain't no silver. Paper illusions, real consequences. Hovering over this powder keg is a paper market grotesquely outsized relative to the underlying metal, with hundreds of synthetic claims stacked on top of each ounce that still sits in vaults. For years, this leverage machine kept prices subdued, lulling institutions into the fantasy that silver was abundant and always available on demand. Now, as physical tightness morphs into outright scarcity, even a small wave of delivery requests has the potential to overwhelm the system and force historic repricing. Industry cannot walk away. Unlike gold, silver is not merely a monetary refuge, it is the bloodstream of modern technology, with industrial usage now comprising over half of total global demand. Solar manufacturers, EV builders, electronic giants, and medical device producers cannot opt out of silver without shutting down entire product lines, because scalable replacement exists for many, excuse me, because no scalable replacement exists for many of its unique conductive and antimicrobial properties. There is no replacement for silver. In many applications, there is nothing else. So, as banks, institutions, and sovereigns wake up to export controls, collapsing inventories, and leveraged paper towers, there are they are not chasing a narrative. They are chasing survival in a market where the squeeze is no longer hypothetical. It's not conspiracy theory. It's not a theory. We have every bit of evidence you need to see that there is no physical metal at these prices. There are, I'm pretty sure, large chunks of metal sitting there waiting for an appropriate price before some of these billionaires will part. Or, and see, here's the thing, sovereign wealth funds and some of these other funds, they're not ever selling their silver. Once they buy the silver, it goes into a vault and sits there. But see, most of these people are not going to put it in a vault. They're going to use it for industry. But no matter how you look at it, there is no silver to be had. Silver is not just rallying, it's revaluing violently and publicly, as the world realizes that the age of cheap, abundant silver is over and it's not coming back. Gone forever. There will never be a time, and I knew it at the time, when I could get 10 ounces of silver for $50 shipped to my door in Hawaii. That day is gone forever. Silver's explosion is no longer just an industrial story. It has become a full-blown monetary uprising, orchestrated by the Communist Chinese Party, who hates the bankers in ways that I can't explain verbally because there aren't English words to convey how much they hate the. See, I'm choking on the words. They hate the bankers. They hate them. Hate isn't a strong enough word. And they are exacting revenge. And this plan has taken them probably more than 100 years. Are you thinking that somehow, some way, they're going to pull this out? The West, I mean. No, they're not. First came the halt, and they lied about that. They just lie. Oh, it was a cooling problem. It was not a cooling problem. They halted the fucking market and decided what was going to be what. who was going to get what, who was going to roll contracts, who was going to get cash. And they pulled it out after a 10-hour stop. And then everything, quote unquote, went back to normal. And then now it's December, and yet more deliveries, more people standing for deliveries. January more than that, and there's no supply coming on because the Chinese went around, and so did others like Samsung. They went around to the mines and said, "We want the silver direct." They're not. It's not going to ever make it to the COMEX or LBMA. It's going to go directly from the mine to Samsung, directly from the mine to whatever Chinese company it is, and then the state itself made all manner of deals with miners where they were buying doré and non-processed. It's silver, but it's, you got to refine it. They were paying twice spot and then shipping it back to China, and they're still out. They still run dry. So they were paying 60, 70, $80 back when silver was only 25, $30. And they weren't paying for refined metal. They weren't even getting coin metal. They were getting stuff that might be 40% silver, it might be 50% silver, paying twice spot and taking it back to China. This has been confirmed. Okay, so there's no silver coming out for some of those mines, not all of them, but for many of those mines, there's no silver going to make it to the market because it's already been accounted for by companies in Asia. What is America doing? Oh, yeah, we're going to send battleships down to Venezuela and take their oil by force. The Chinese cut deals. Further, the Chinese markets, you can't go short unless you actually have the metal. Meantime, the Americans and the English, and by the way, these are tiny hat bankers. We call them Americans in English, but they're tiny hat bankers who lied about the price of silver for over a century. They told you the price was this. And the reason why the price was this is because they were able to flood the market with paper and make you think that there was abundant silver, that there'd always be silver. And sure, if you want paper, you could make tons of money in this market. And then we get into the whole thing about increase and the law of increase and their whole Mason BS. But the idea is now the Chinese have basically made it so that there isn't going to be supply coming in. There won't be supply coming from the mines. There won't be supply coming from their country because they've put a moratorium on selling silver starting in just a week. And between now and then, I think most people who can do even basic math understand that when 70% of the supply gets cut, the price is probably going to go up. And you probably aren't going to be able to get your hands on physical metal at all. You won't even you won't even be able to. There won't be any physical metal to get. That's not a problem if you're a guy like me who's just speculating and investing and so forth. I don't need silver to live. But Samsung and Apple and many other companies, uh, they can't live without the silver. So silver is being pulled back into the financial system as money, collateral, and sovereign reserve because it's a tier one asset, igniting a second, even more powerful leg in this historic bull run. So never mind everything else. The fact that you are now able to borrow against your silver, and in India, they made it. Well, let's go down further. I'm sure it's there. Silver returns as money in India. There you go. See, I was leading myself. In All right, in India, the Reserve Bank's new lending against gold and silver collateral directions formally elevate. Yeah, see, they made a standard and tell you how much you can use and so forth. Anyway, formally elevate silver ornaments. Ornaments, that means they're saris. See, Indian women, if you're not aware, they wear their wealth, especially during weddings, on their persons in the form of jewelry and little trinkets and bells on their saris. And you'll see these exquisite women decked out in silks that are, what's the word I want? Not just embroidered, but I mean, they literally decorate their saris with silver. Some of those things now, the woman will be wearing 100 ounces. Some of those saris now can be folded up and you can borrow against them. It's like your wedding dress, except in the United States and the Western world, we don't put silver all over our wedding dresses. It's not common. Maybe somebody wealthy might do that every once in a great while, but in India, it is common practice. Silver and gold. Okay, so now you can take and this the Indians are famous for saving in silver. Dowries in silver. So they've elevated silver ornaments and coins into the banking system, allowing households and businesses to post silver for bank and NBFC loans from 2026 onward, starting in a week. This single policy move remonetizes silver for over a billion people. A billion. 3 times the population of United States. Turning family silver from a dead asset into live bankable liquidity. And do you understand that they are going to unleash the power of their populace? So now they'll have assets to start businesses, import, export. Pension funds and large asset managers trapped in negative real yields and collapsing bond markets are quietly rotating into vaulted silver as a hard asset hedge against accelerating fiat devaluation. What began as a trickle of alternative allocation, air quotes, alternative allocation, has mutated into a strategic allocation thesis. Own what cannot be printed, especially when it is also essential to industry. You cannot print silver. It takes huge amounts of effort to take it from the ground to a coin that you can hold in your hand. Russia has now explicitly added silver to its strategic precious metal reserve program. So has the United States, by the way, earmarking hundreds of millions of dollars for purchases and branding the metal a strategic financial asset. With its de-dollarization drive, that move shattered decades-long taboo among central banks and signaled that official institutions are no longer content to hold only gold while industry devours silver. Meanwhile, Florida has kicked open the political door in the West, passing CSHB 999 to recognize gold and silver coins as legal tender, exempt from state sales tax, and build infrastructure so citizens can actually use them in payments starting in 2026. Other states are already drafting copycat sound money bills, transforming silver from a sidelined commodity into parallel money inside the world's largest fiat money system. And this is the thing, this is a trillions, quadrillions. That's just FRNs, but there's trillions in rubles and rupees. There's trillions in rand. There's trillions in euros. And all of those trillions, well, not all of them, but a tiny percentage of those trillions, I'm saying all the people that hold those trillions, they all understand silver. And they also understand that they can't take their assets and put it into silver because there isn't enough silver. Layer this monetary shock on top of collapsing inventories, weaponized exports, and parabolic industrial demand, And the result is not just a bull market, it's the rebirth of silver as the people's money, God's money. This is not the devil's metal. In a world where trust in paper is dying by the day, there is no more trust in paper. The tiny hats have been found out. Silver at 20 bucks, as I said repeatedly for freaking years, was a gift. A gift that Americans were too stupid too stupid to accept. All right, let's move on to another letter. Uh, this comes from Future Money Trends, and not sharing screen, so you can look at this chart while I read this. But just look at this chart. Yeah, Cyrus, your Bitcoin isn't going to go up 10 times in the first quarter. Silver is. So if you really want to buy Bitcoin and XRP, put your money in silver first and then cash out and then turn around and buy Bitcoin and XRP. As people see clearly don't understand. The whole reason for some of those coins was so that you didn't put the money into silver. There was a time when Fartcoin was worth more than all the silver mined in a year. That was strategically done to make sure that people put their money in crypto instead of metals, because if just a tiny portion of the money in crypto flows into metals. Anyway, all right, so look at this chart. Just look at this chart. Like I said, you're never going to see anything like it again as long as you live. You're getting smoked now if you didn't understand the bull market. That's the title of this treatise. The silver market just detonated, and we're watching the most insane breakout of our lifetimes unfold live, right in front of your eyes. Charlie Kirk, no. Well, Candace Owens and doing it, no. Then you had Trump and Puff, no. Yeah, all that stuff's important, maybe, but the idea that you can set your grandchildren up forever by understanding what's coming and moving your assets, not into fucking crypto, but into something you can hold in your hand. No counterparty risk. No getting taxed on and off rails. No, they can't get their fucking greedy little fingers if you do it right. And now you can have your stash of silver and borrow against it. If me was you, I wouldn't sell another dime. I'd borrow against it though. And then you have to know how. Anyway, it's not even a question which newsletter has delivered the most accurate analysis and research in the world in the past decade. We featured Bitcoin at $500 a coin, Ethereum at $12 a token, silver at $12 an ounce, and gold at $11.80 an ounce. And the list goes on and on. This has actually been a really good newsletter. Right now, December 22nd, 2025, is the culmination of over 18 years of market experience funneled into one. 2026 will be incredible. Think about the potential for 2026. It's beyond belief. Silver blasted to a fresh all-time high, $69 plus in the last hours, peaking to $69.45, up another 3 to 4% overnight. 132% year to date. Actually, it's like 175% year to date. Because remember, this is old. This article's old. It's like 4 days old, 5 days old. So I mean, this is all old news. 69. That's so last week. Oh my God, this is insanity. Anyway, the leash snapped. Industrial demand is a raging inferno. Solar panels, EVs, AI servers, robotics devouring every physical ounce. 149 million ounce deficit locked in for 2025 and widening. It's going to be at least 149 million ounces. Where are they gonna? They're not gonna because it doesn't exist. Comex vaults are drained. Shanghai premiums are exploding. Banks flipping net long for the first time ever. The short squeeze has ignited. Guess what? The American banks, HSBC is holding the bag, but American banks have gone long. The baby rapers over there at JP Morgan, yeah, they went long. Bank of America, long. They got out of their shorts. How did they get out of their shorts? They got bailed out. Gold's roaring too at 44. See, it's 45 now. What a difference 5 days makes. But silver's 10 times volatility is stealing the show. The catalysts are pure rocket fuel. Fed pivot to cuts. Trump lowest rates globally. Synergy with the Treasury, geopolitical safe haven floods, and macro hedging is pouring in. $69 today. It's not even $69 today. It's $79 today. There's $10, $2 a day since then. And actually, most of that happened on Friday. $100 is not a dream. It's the inevitable next station. My charting says 92 is going to be a pause. And there may be some flash crashes in here where they hanky panky around. But just hold on. It doesn't matter. It's going higher. But see, back when I was saying $100, everybody, that's crazy talk. I'm not saying $100. I'm saying you need another zero. If you can do the math, 1,000 is not even, right? And it's not happening in the first quarter, but in the bull run that's coming, or well, that we're in, which isn't ending anytime soon, $100 is going to get left in the dust. This time next year, it's going to be a hell of a lot more than 100. This time the next year after that, it's going to be more than that. Again, there is no supply coming on. So what's here is what's here, and those people that have sucked up silver and put it in vaults, they may sell at higher prices. And I'm talking about physical, because they may sell paper, but nobody wants paper. They want physical. They want the metal. This is celebration time. The elites who suppressed silver for 45 years are getting absolutely torched. 45 years. They've been fucking doing this since the Civil War, since 1871. They've been lying and lying and lying. They've destroyed people's lives. Entire generations have suffered because the tiny hat fucking bankers have lied about the price of this most precious metal. The patient stackers who held through the dark years are winning huge, huge. Precious metals are back. Common sense is back. My word, 2026 will be the greatest year ever for mining stocks. Right now, silver mining stocks have not moved yet. They still flat. Go look at the charts. You want to see a run, like an insane run, uh, go do some research when it comes to the juniors. The mining stocks are going to do insane things over the next 12 months. You ignored the doubters. You trusted the fundamentals. Now the greatest wealth transfer of our generation is roaring louder than ever. This will be the greatest wealth transfer in your lifetime. The shorts are burning. The physical rules. The truth always wins. The new era in silver is here, and we're riding it all the way to the top. Welcome to real money's revenge, and we're only just getting started. And it's the Chinese, it's the Chinese, it's the Chinese. They mad. They've been planning this forever. And what you're about to see is the coup de grace. Yeah, this is going to be the other thing. Moving silver around is suddenly going to be difficult because 10 coins is $10,000, and you're going to, well, not yet, but it's going to be. So you try to move 10 coins across a border and they're going to get testy. You're going to have to declare it. Bruh, everything changing. Okay, I just wanted to read those two things. I'm going to make another video or two today. Uh, More to do with math, hopefully, and maybe five-star passports. But, bruh, you guys want to be free? Silver is the way to go. You want to stop war? Silver is the way to go. You want to be sovereigns? You need wealth. You want to get out of the system? Silver is your way to do it. And then you buy some property, and then you buy somebody's battery, and yeah, and then you set up your own little compound. Multiple families living on, I don't know, 500 acres. You don't have to see each other. I've seen many of these things in Fiji where a family owns multiple acres, and some of it's in sugarcane, and some of it's in various hardwoods. And in between all of this, there's houses the families live on. They're all related, right? Brothers, sisters, uncles, cousins, and they don't need to come off their property. They grow their own food. They don't need to come off their property unless they want to. Maybe like go beach or maybe go to town or something, go dancing or listen to music. But overall, they're not in the grocery stores or malls because they got everything they need. If you're a woman needs needless market, well, you'll actually probably be able to provide that too. Women like to shop. Get over yourselves. And see, this is the thing. Women are always going to want to shop. So the whole Mad Max scenario, no. And they've proven that there isn't going to be a Mad Max scenario for the very simple reason that they just sent, and see, it was rumored. Nope, it's been verified. $17 billion to bail these fuckers out on Friday. They're going to need 25 billion more next week and probably 50 billion after that. Where are they getting the money? They're printing it. They just made bonds. They just went. The guys took all their assets, went over to the Treasury, right to the Fed window, and they got paper. That means all the other paper is worth that much less because of these fuckers. And pretty soon it's going to be worthless. And it's going to happen sooner than later. They're going to talk out their ass all day long about how it's the world reserve currency. And look, it's got fucking American presidents on it. That means it's not going to go to zero. Every other currency in the history of the world has gone to zero. If it was fiat, there is no fiat that has stood the test of time. Not ever once, never ever in the history of the world. And our currency isn't going to be different. There's just a lot more of it. And that money is going to come flooding back in across our borders. There is so much more fiat outside United States than there is inside United States. And when that money comes flooding home, and it already is, the Chinese, we haven't even talked about the Japanese carry trade. That's gone. But it's a perfect storm. We are in the crack up boom. If you have read Austrian economics, you know what comes. They told you what comes. And now suddenly all the pundits, they can do math. Suddenly they don't know what a trillion is. Suddenly they can't seem to understand that we've got trillions of dollars rolling into $1 billion market, right? Or a billion ounce market. There are only, if you get, I mean, being generous, 4 billion ounces of silver above the ground. 4 billion. A trillion is 1,000 billion. There's multiple trillions. There's quadrillions. Now you just take a tiny percentage of that. Teeny tiny. And it rolls into the silver market. The silver market can handle at this price. Now, serious, this is where we come into XRP because the same thing. There's going to be trillions. Trillions and trillions of dollars that are still going to want to cross borders. Just because the child fuckers at HSBC have gone under and JP Morgan is now, like I said, long. that doesn't mean that they're not still going to want to move money because they're still doing industry. Business isn't going to come to a halt. Money is still going to have to move. And up until quite recently, the way it moved was using the currency called the Federal Reserve note. Oil was settled in Federal Reserve gold. All of it was all traded in Federal. Nope. Take too long. Cost too much. Too many middlemen. XRP, 7 second settlement. But you know, can't move gajillions of dollars with XRP at $2. It's got to go higher. And not just a little higher, a lot higher. Just like silver. All these guys want to buy silver. They can afford millions and millions and millions of ounces if it's only $100. But now let's move the decimal place over. And now their trillions of dollars still represents value in the form of silver. And each one of those ounces of silver is going to be worth ever so much more than it is today. They have no way out. This isn't a bubble. There isn't going to be magical mine supply showing up, or refinery supply, or any supply. The silver that's above ground is going to slosh around. There are those that have vaults full of silver, supposedly. We're going to find out here soon. And when the price gets high enough, some of those people, like Bateman, who has bought many millions of ounces, when is he going to sell? At some point, he's going to take profit. But see, here's the thing. He may not sell the physical metal. He may only lease it or let you borrow it or, take a loan against it. But that won't work for Samsung. They don't want paper. They want metal. So if Bateman, and see, this is the thing, people understand going forward that the metal that they sell, they're not going to be able to get it back. It will be used in industry. And any silver that has gone to China is gone, never coming back to the West. The world is changing right beneath your feet, my friends. You can set your grandbabies up forever if you wake the fuck up. Silver is, and see all the stories. Does not silver kill the vampires? Well, no, you want ash for that, but silver steaks. It definitely was the werewolves. You know that you shoot the werewolf with a silver bullet, and he died. Okay, silver is doing the same thing to the tiny hat bankers who worship Satan. And over the last few days, you don't know what you don't want to know what they've done, and they do it every year, and we pretend like they don't. But they celebrate Santanella, and yeah, they ain't eating roast beef. That meat is not cow. And see, you want to pretend like those people don't exist, but they exist. They never went away. They just went underground. And now you buy their music and you vote for them, watch them on movies, watch them play sports. They entertain you. But they're deists and they're not Christians. They when they talk about the Lord, the Lord they're talking about is a completely different guy. And he's set up this system and it's being destroyed because the system was based on fraud and lies, and those lies and frauds are becoming apparent, cannot stand the light of day, and they cannot fulfill their obligations because they lied and lied and lied. They went naked short. They dumped billions of ounces of imaginary, non existent silver into the market multiple times to try and drive the price down. And they were successful temporarily. Two times before, you can look at this chart and you can see 2 times before they were absolutely successful for years, decades. But this time is not like those other 2 times. This time, silver is the lifeblood of technology. The technology is not going away. And in fact, the technology will be demanding even more silver as time goes by. And you know what you can replace silver with in certain applications? Gold. but gold is $4,500 an ounce on its way to 5,000, and silver is only 100. So they're not going to be using gold for a long, long time until such time as it reaches parity with silver. When you find out that there's actually less above ground silver than there is above ground gold, you start to realize that this is no longer a pipe dream. Technology must go on, and they're not going to stop the show just because they ran out of silver. They'll find alternatives, except for the minor detail that there are, in fact, no replacements in certain applications for silver. Nothing conducts as well. Nothing reflects as well. Nothing kills bacteria as well. Nothing. There is no replacement. You can use platinum, which is going to be, there's another market right there. There ain't no platinum. And platinum will be absolutely necessary in catalytic converters, which they're going to want now because they realize that we can't have all these EVs needing charging because we need the power for AI installations that suck power like you, because the numbers are insane. And they're subsidizing it off the back of the slaves. The slaves hate to be called slaves. They're subsidizing it on the back of the taxpayer. You may have noticed that in some places, yeah, all manner of productivity increases and fuel savings and so forth, and yet the electric bill goes up because the power generation, they're still sucking it all up. And that's another thing. Certain Americans have realized that the Chinese generate oh so much more power than we do. And if we're going to compete with them technologically, we're going to have to start producing more power too. See, and this is where we go down the conspiracy theory path because there is basic free energy, magnetronics instead of electronics, but they won't give us magnetronics. They only give us electronics. But if we get into magnetronics, we can generate energy. And guess what? Silver will be needed in magnetronics because once again, nothing conducts like silver. Okay, Crime Stoppers, govern yourselves accordingly. I'm not telling you to buy silver at 80. I'm just doing math. I'm not telling you to buy a goddamn thing because I'm in so far under you guys. And you know what? My sons, I stood on their heads, yelled at them, made life uncomfortable to the point where they don't want to talk to their dad until finally they started stockpiling their own. And I remember when silver got to that little, ever see right there where it's at 30, my boys, I was telling them, you probably your and there's, we don't want to get dimes at this price because they're too high. It's going to come back down. No, it's not. And one little boy almost sold some silver so he could go party in LA. And I was like, that's a bad idea. And lo and behold, his silver is literally worth like 75% more than it was when he was going to sell it to go to the party in LA. And rising. One more time, I'm not telling you for do nothing. I'm just explaining to you what the situation is. And if you can't govern yourself, well, then what's going to happen? Your money is going to turn to no good. What's going to happen when you can't feed your children? Oh, there's the CBDC. We'll give you universal basic income. Sign here. And when you sign here, oh, you want that universal basic income? Well, you got to take this medical adjunct. If you don't take it, you get less, or it expires, or you can't spend it on this or that, or you can't travel. You can't buy an airline ticket with it. Oh, you got your shot. Okay, now you can. See how this works? And then there's going to be those of us that are like, fuck you. I don't need your money. I don't need your universal basic income. Because the fucking government doesn't give you a goddamn thing without wanting something in return. Ain't no free money. And some of you have figured out they don't love you. They rather you not be here. and they don't need you anymore because 5 years from now, there's going to be robots that you won't hardly be able to tell they're robots. All right, Crouton Ramon's houseofmath.com for more. Check out the 5 star passport page because what good is it having money if you're a slave?